Alright, time for another draft physics video presentation. Draft science here on YouTube. So we'll start with a little bit of Google crap. Clearly they spy on us and do all this stuff, watching every single click and watching every single mouse move. And even if you're in a private window, they're still watching and gleaning information for the purpose of manipulation. And that should be something you just say, why do we want search engines doing that? And then you can see how they run places like YouTube, where everything's hidden, everything's who knows what they actually do. They show one person one version of YouTube, they show another person a different version of YouTube. You can see it for yourself. Just view the search results when you're signed in, and then view the search results when you're in a private window, and they're not going to be the same. They give you this false impression that they actually do recommend your videos or something. They say fill your little boxes full of your videos, like, oh yes, I'm relevant on that search term. No, you're not relevant at all. You're not going to be viewed. You're not going to be seen. And there's no way to clean up the search results at all. So, like, if you search on a subject like physics and you say something like, it'd be nice if the video was in English. No, can't do that. Sorry. Nothing. You're hopelessly going to fail in finding anything really relevant or meaningful. It's just terrible and it's dismal, and there's no way, if this was a competitive environment, that they could get away with that kind of poor performance. They'd have to play a better game. So the whole idea of the internet being driven by these monopoly owners, the Facebooks and the YouTubes and all the other things you could name that kind of own the territory, ruins the territory. And it needs to be regulated, and needs to be a public utility of sorts, and or else you need to create a public option, some sort of version of these providers. I always said it'd be very nice for the government just to create server space, allow people to upload videos, and they could do a little bit of organization, and you just pay for your bandwidth, period. Make it nice and simple. Put your own commercials in your videos. Do your own soliciting of revenue if that's what you want. But whatever. Instead of this shyster system. And again, we all pay for this crap. Advertising isn't free. I mean, if people think this doesn't cost anything, yeah, it costs a lot. Maybe 20%, I don't know, maybe more of what you have to pay for every product you buy. You have to pay for the fact that the producer has to go through this antics of soliciting your attention, of waving its hand higher than the other people are waving their hand, and say, pick me, pick me. And we're all paying for it. It's a waste. It's a waste of all this energy just to manipulate, just to raise hands. So just imagine all the energy for pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me, all that noise. And you're paying for that. It's this horribly stupid system. It's a stupid way to pay for it. Much more expensive than it would be. Just as solar panels would be much more effective if we actually put them on farms, instead of, it's just like farming. Farming is more effective on a large scale than on a little small scale, because the pesticides work better, lots of things work better. The water, lots of things are more economical on a large scale. Mass production's a good idea. And the same is true here. There's lots of savings to be made by doing it right once, not doing it badly a million times, shabbily, poorly. But anyway, the American people are too dung and Kreger dumb. Okay, they've way overestimated their intelligence, and have really no clue that they could live in a much, much better civilization, and all it takes is a little bit of organization, but they can't do that. So anyway, so on to Baldy Catz, one of these internet personalities trying so hard, to just be one of these icons of a thing, flat earth debunking, science integrity defending, but he's an idiot. He's another guy who's way overestimated his competence. So they just keep pointing their Dunning-Kruger finger, and it goes all the way back to Jesus, right? I mean, Dunning-Kruger is basically Jesus saying, "If God forgive them, for they know not what they do." Yeah, they're too stupid to know just how out of their you want to say, they're not. I mean, the one guy even admits he's not a scientist. I should play that clip. The stupid creaky blender or whatever the hell he is. It looks like a Ken Wheeler wannabe. Maybe he can gain 300 or 400 pounds. Because he's got the tattoos and the ear holes and nose ring. Even Ken Wheeler's smart enough to not go with that. But anyway, jeez. You're just, desperately seeking what? Seeking what? What are you seeking? Anyway. But anyway, he's not qualified to do any of this crap. I go on the internet and look at Wikipedia pages and, recite the standard Borg argument. There, we win. I mean, it's just so bad. Such a fail. So again, Baldy Catz just has to do one. Look, he probably likes that his name is in the title of the videos, I guess. So I guess I have to connect him to more nasty words like bigot. So I guess I'll call him that. A discriminator, what's a word for that? Exploitanist, so maybe I'll just keep changing the adjectives and associate him, denier. Yeah, I'll call him one of those. Whatever it takes. But again, there's a simple request on the table. And you can see none of the shills have showed up in the comments section. See, so they're all communicating with each other and they're all worried. Oh, don't give them any attention. No, avoid it. Yeah, well, whatever. You're not going to be able to avoid me. And I really don't think you're going to win. In the end, I'm going to show you to be the frauds and the fakes and the phonies that you are. So you're going to lose even bigger then. So you could be ignored and then not have to account for that what little scheming little turds you were by being ignored, or you can make noise and then make yourself look stupid in the end. Whatever his name is, Stephen Bro. Yeah, yeah, he's gonna look really, really stupid, lying little sack of turd that he is. I mean, so stupid. Anyway, Jesus. So I'll get to the comments. Pathetic. People are just so pathetic. So anyway, all Baldy Catz has to do is, again, just one link. Just provide me the link to the two-slit explanation that is correct. That is scientifically not Dunning-Kruger bullshit. That isn't somehow some asshole forgetting about the truth and just talking shit. Because that's all I've seen on the internet, actually, is people talking shit. So show me something that's different than that. Show how your science has integrity. Show how here's a scientist showing the truth. Show me that. Or else accept the appropriate statement, which is you're just religion versus religion. It's a pointless debate. You're no better than the flat earthers. You're just seeking to validate some notions in your head about your little special reality that you live in. And that's it. And you've so exaggerated your perception of your intelligence by thinking, well, if none of us could think of how it possibly could work, then it's impossible to think of it. Because we're so fucking smart. The Feynman attitude. Which I would like to play in this video eventually if I get around to it, right? As that's using up too many minutes. Alright, so, so all I had to do is produce the evidence, then he can be obscure and irrelevant. Just another flat earth debunker, yeah, not worth the time. And clearly a coward. Somebody who just isn't capable of making any arguments. Unless he's arguing with somebody who is plainly functionally retarded, which you have to be a flat earther. I mean, realistically. I mean, it's dumber than any other. I mean, you can't really, you can imagine a dumber belief like what, fairy godmothers? Pinocchio science, like you can make puppets turn into real boys or something. I mean, what could be dumber than flat earth? There's not much on that list. But anyway, so clearly picking on, yes, people of diminished capacity, clearly. So just more evidence of how they're just trolls, religious trolls. They're actually going to debate whatever that crazy Baptist church is that goes to funerals to troll people. They troll people at funerals. So that's okay. That ethic is okay with him. I'm sure that, Baptist church, I'm sure they don't have a very high opinion of Jews. Yet he's going to have a polite conversation. It even says right in his promotion, a friendly conversation with the insane bigots. I mean, his hypocrisy is so obvious. It's so duplicitous. I mean, he obviously knows, yes, I used the Holocaust as a lame excuse to evade being embarrassed, okay, by one of my to-be victims. I thought I had a victim on the line, and no, you really had a shark, okay? You thought you had a little flounder that you could fuck with, but, it turns out, no, it's a shark, and he's going to eat your fucking boat. Asshole. Yeah. So, get what you deserve, plainly. Get treated exactly the way you treat others. That is, you get lied to by some shammy shyster piece of shit. Yeah. Anyway. People. All right, 23 minutes. And what the F are you? I don't know. You think I'm really going to go there? I'm just going to sit there and play whatever word I called somebody. Clearly, I'm not somebody who's doing this because of I got to sell t-shirts and make money and do all that kind of crap. I'm not thinking the audience should be paying me, okay, unless they've got a pile of money and don't mind donating. But otherwise, they have no obligation to endure any bullshit. And, I'm not saying anything to gild any lilies. I'm not trying to seduce you out of anything. I'm just trying to make counter arguments to crap. Okay, crap stated by people who are pretending not to be crap spewers. And I'm just pointing out how, that's crap. There it is. We can see it. They're selling a piece of crap. They put it on the plate and are handing it to us. And, I'm just saying that, there's nothing I can do about the fact that you people are shit eaters. Okay, you're all poo eaters. But I'm just stating for the record, I'm not a poo eater. That's it. That's about all I am doing. I'm just defending my reasoning skills. And so that's what I am. Somebody who defends their capacity to logically add 2 + 2 and come up with fucking 4. Asshole. Alright. So, Cliffy Creek. I don't know what that is. High School Chemistry 1. Atoms, electrons, protons, neutrons can not be magnetic. I didn't say they were magnetic, did I, retard? No, I say they create magnetism, retard. Their arrangement creates magnetism. So you don't think atoms being changed creates magnetism? No, okay. And so the argument is that charge, or if you want to think of charge as elemental magnetism, it doesn't really matter. North, south, plus, minus. It all adds up to the same thing in the end, and that's sort of demonstrated by Maxwell's equation, so you should be able to understand that. Now, the simple argument being made, so I'll read it. The implications would mean tearing up the entire periodic table. No, it wouldn't. The periodic table is about the number of electrons and protons, retard. I didn't change that number any. Okay, and invalidating all known chemical reactions. Another pile of absolute bullshit. So, I mean, why do you spout this crap that is so easily pointed out to be just that? Crap. I mean, you're just producing crap. So what he's arguing that somehow you break fundamental chemistry by, pointing out that you could make an atom, out of electrons and protons. And as pointed out, you could understand that if these were positive charges and this was a negative charge, that even with charge, I can create a circumstance where there would be a balance. The attraction and the repulsion between these would balance. That you couldn't move this object closer without moving it closer to these two other things that are repelling it. So I've made the point that this is completely consistent with the physics we know, not inconsistent at all. So my argument is that, yeah, the atom is not, there's no electron swirling around here at some preposterous speed. The electron is in a fixed location, and when two atoms share an electron, okay, it means that they literally share it. It stays right there, the two atoms use it, and so it has the same balanced power. And so all I've done is say, yeah, they share it. It's right here. And so all I've done is gotten rid of their silly figure 8 crap, that somehow the electron is floating around going in all kinds of wacky directions. That's all. It doesn't change the net balance of things. And again, I've pointed out that you can understand that if you take an atom and it has electrons and protons and you squish, that is, you push these electrons in, that these electrons will end up going out, that you'll misshapen the atom. And if you misshape the atom, it's going to have poles. It's going to have a plus side and it's going to have a minus side. You're going to polarize the atom. And that's perfectly consistent with what we see in the real world. Anyway, all known chemical reactions and chemical compounds that are useful daily and overall over the last century. So that's just a lie, a stupid, idiotic statement. Hence, there's absolutely nothing about a magnetic model of atoms that breaks chemistry. Just complete idiotic nonsense. Chemistry is about sharing electrons. Atoms connecting to each other is about the fact that they have a little bit of repulsion they have to get over, and if they push hard enough into each other, they'll pop an electron, or they'll end up sharing one in a space where they didn't have one. Not complicated at all. Well, it's complicated, but I mean, it's not. There's nothing that changes because you use plus and minus versus using north-south. All right. Let's see. And atomic weights. No. Hence, the basis for modern chem is the atomic number and atomic weight. And how did I change any of that? Oh, that's right. Didn't change it at all, you stupid, lying piece of crap. Okay. Are you also suggesting that the chemists of the world made a wrong turn too? Well, it's all physics. Okay. So, yes. But obviously, the chemistry doesn't really deal with the physics. It doesn't deal with whether the atom is bound by a figure 8 or whether the atom's bound by a magnetic. There are two magnets are sticking to the same magnet. There's two positives over here and a negative here. I mean, a north face here and, monopoles. So they don't really deal with monopole physics, magnetic monopoles, because they don't understand that electrons and protons are magnetic monopoles. But clearly, it can be understood that way. So there's no limitation. It doesn't provide any. It doesn't break any of your physics. So you're just making a claim that it does when it doesn't, and you don't back up the claim with anything rational. I mean, everybody can see magnets can levitate each. We see it. We see it. Okay. The made-up two-force universe can coexist with modern chemistry. So that's kind of funny. I guess you meant can't. But yes, it can. That's right. The made-up two-force universe can coexist with modern chemistry. Yeah. Denying the neutron as a standalone entity. So again, where did I deny a neutron? I denied that a neutron is elemental. It's made of a proton and an electron. Where does regular physics disagree? Regular physics doesn't think neutrons are indestructible, that they can't be broken into a neutron and a proton. That's exactly what they believe, retard. They put a positron in there, but no, there's no positrons. It's just silly. All right. I mean, why are you saying this shit? I mean, you have nothing to back it up. You're not making any kind of argument. What the fuck is this shit? Anyway. Denying the neutron as a standalone entity is wrong, as a neutron is the third expression of the atom. So again, you really don't get it. It really isn't. The neutron merely provides an extra electron, okay, through which the other protons can mitigate pressure, that is, get rid of it. And that's why the strong force is really an incredibly weak force. So all your physics has been broken by the fact that you think you need a tremendous amount of energy to cram protons close to each other. No, all you need is an electron, and the electron takes care of the pressure. But you're too stupid to know this stuff. Okay. Anyway, third expression of an atom along with the proton and electron per modern chemistry. Well, it really isn't. Its neutrality makes it kind of irrelevant in a lot of circumstances. So you're even wrong about how essential it is to modern chemistry. The only thing that really matters is the extra protons. That's what makes the nucleus positive, net positive, is the protons, the extra protons. Did you ever consider the interaction between your physics opinions and chemistry? So of course I did, and I said, wow, it works so much better. Sharing electrons, actually sharing them instead of sharing some orbiting piece of shit, makes so much fucking sense. It means the atoms can actually move around and do things because the thing that's supposed to be binding them, the glue, isn't in the wrong place. The glue is always in the right place. It's always geometrically rational. So it works better, idiot. So yes, of course, I did consider it. Okay. The interactions demonstrating that physics and chemistry is a bit more than just high school plane geometry based on circular orbits. So he doesn't even get that I don't believe in circular orbits, that I believe in straight line force, like gravity. The orbit of the Earth is an illusion. There is no circular path. The Earth takes a bunch of straight line vectors. Each atom, each element of the atom, the electron and proton, never travels. An electron never travels a curved path anywhere. It goes straight this way, and it goes straight that way, and it goes straight this way, and it could go straight that way. And there's always a net product of a change in its location, but it never, ever, ever travels a curved path. So, no counter argument of any kind here, just a bunch of, I think, I suppose, I wonder if you're wrong. Well, gee, isn't that special? But you made no rational argument how I'm wrong, how there is any inconsistency between the observed experiments and my model. My model explains what happens perfectly. Well, it's far superior to the conventional mush. Right. So, I only see you calling this guy names, then saying that he doesn't know the true story and proceed to act like you know the true story. My only argument is you can get the true story about Tesla from Tesla's own words, so, and his patents. So you can see his reasoning. And clearly there's just certain facts, okay? I mean, he didn't invent AC current. It just didn't happen, okay? It's just not true. He did do some, creating the phase motor. He did realize you could exploit phase to make a motor. So, yes, he did do that. But he didn't invent any of this stuff. I mean, he really didn't invent it. Other people were playing with these things also. All right. So, it's just, you don't think that that people tell stories and the stories aren't true. You don't think that ever happens in reality. That they get the facts wrong. And if you go back and you can find the actual facts, like you can actually find Einstein's letters. You can find his divorce decree. You can find lots of things that say pretty clearly what kind of guy Einstein was. And, definitely not the kind of guy you'd want to marry. Tesla didn't invent anything. What the fuck? So that's the best you can do? You couldn't just list his you know, many inventions? No, you couldn't, because he doesn't have a whole lot. His contribution was arrogance. Okay, that's what he gave physics. All of this stuff was happening in an environment where every Tuesday something new was discovered. You have to kind of understand that. Like, there was thousands of people working on this stuff because it's the Industrial Revolution. Everybody's keyed up. This is, you know, the world's really going. Lots of innovation. And he's just one of the people in that stream, you know. And if it didn't happen by Tesla on Tuesday, it would have happened by somebody else on Thursday. So anyway, fuck you. Alright, so this idiot. I mean, it's just another person who hasn't paid a damn bit of attention to a goddamn thing on this channel, and he's just gonna treat, you know, just, I'm gonna just talk my shit. I haven't paid any fucking attention at all to what you're talking about. So, wow, dude. So this is some guy who's a few years older than me, but looks a few decades older than me, using dude. Now, I wonder how many times he says dude in his videos, right? So I have to go through his videos, see how many times he says dude to anybody. You know, hey, dudes. What are you? So, obviously, he's just saying, hey, you know, replace it with any kind of N-word of your choice. He's just using dude as a derogatory insult. That's it. I'm better than you are because I'm calling you a dude or a boy, you know, or a bro. You know. Yeah, sure you are. Fuck you. Fuck that. Anyway, an hour of pontificating. Well, you can call it anything you want. All right. The fact is, there's arguments in the video, clear, presented arguments. So the video is full of arguments about magnetism and how things work, and here you are saying pontificating. So what's the point? I can just write that on your video. You want me to just write that on your video? 27 minutes of old guy drooling. Fuck you. Old senile guy drooling. Okay. How in the world did you get 2,000 subs? Nothing charismatic about you for sure. Well, my argument is I'm not trying, okay, to solicit an audience that cares about anything but defending the truth. So that's it. That's the only standard I have. I want to argue. I don't like arguing, but I know arguing is the only way you can get somewhere, is you have to make the arguments. You have to show the religious fakers for what they are. You have to show that the science is bullshit. You have to get the little scientist into a chair and then hit him with some rubber hose, okay, and get him to admit, yeah, the evidence really is weak. Okay. Yeah, that's what it takes. Anyway, why are you so bitter and jealous? So again, I'm not bitter or jealous. I was cheated, okay, clearly, out of an opportunity to finally get a physicist to man up and face me mano a mano. And not a physicist, a high school teacher. Okay, I finally seduced one of them into a fair fight, and they pussied the fuck out. Anyway, double slit has been done, so this is just so amazing in this context, right? I've got over 100 videos on the subject showing professors getting it wrong, not capable of describing the right pattern, not capable of drawing anything right, everything just wrong all over the place. Misdirection, not even close to accurate. Now, why don't you put your little balls on the line? And so I'll give you the same challenge as Baldy Catz. Post a link to a two-slit video that you think is accurate, that is scientifically rigorous, okay, that knows what the pattern actually is and can describe how waves make it. Can you do that, fuckhead? Dude? Fuck dude? Dude-er-tard? Okay, anyway, so what a stupid thing. Double slit has been done. I mean, what a stupid fucking thing to say in this context. Yeah, it's been done badly. It's a cornerstone of of quantum mechanics as a theory, and the cornerstone is full of maggots, for fuck's sake. It's a piece of shit as a cornerstone, just as the Eddington experiment is a piece of shit as a cornerstone of relativity. All right. Why is a Catz a coward? Because he doesn't bow to your commands. Because he made a contract, he made a deal, and then he backed out of it for weaselly reasons. Okay. The Drake equation was made because people asked repeatedly, is there life out there? You really think that's why the Drake equation was made? Drake wasn't just doing it for his own entertainment. Okay. It's better than you pulling something out of your brain. I mean, it's just so stupid. What do you fucking think Drake did? He pulled shit out of his ass. You think he knows how likely is abiogenesis, the creation of a reproducing cell out of raw chemistry? And you know the answer? You think he has some special knowledge that gives him some clue as to how rare that is? The invention of the eyeball, the invention of the neuron, the invention of the nucleic cell. You think all of this, you think, the little fibrous tubes that make moving the chromosomes possible, you think the invention of those things is all he has knowledge of exactly how easy or hard it is for those chemical circumstances to be created where that will happen? How the fuck does he have any clue, fuckhead? Anyway, I mean, to defend the Drake equation is just flat earth stupid. Okay. No, it's Pinocchio stupid. It's better than you pulling something out of your brain. Like I said, I mean, at least I'm pulling it out of the right thing. Anyway, probability is small, but out of an infinite set, the overall probability gets pretty large. So again, no acknowledgement of the fact that in an infinite world there still would be events that were very, very rare or only happen once. It can't change that fact. It just can't. You can pile the Yahtzee dice up infinitely as well. Okay, so there'd be an infinitely unrealistic possibility of having an infinite number of Yahtzee dice that all stack on top of each other with the number 5 on top. And especially when you get into the real world of the mechanics of rolling the dice in gravity, it would be factually impossible. So in an infinite universe, there's still things that can't possibly happen. Okay, they just can't. Oh, God. So, I mean, this guy doesn't know shit about probability. All right. So physics novice, he argues with him. Let's see what he says. Yes, it has been done. Physics lectures like Leonard Susskind. So he points out how they're full of shit. So that's good. And he links to it. So let's see what the retard says in response. I am certain when I studied it in college 45 years ago. So yes, that makes him about 5 years older than me. Yeah, it's not doing quite as well. There was a lot more detail. So he's saying back in school there was more detail. I don't think so. It seems like your opinion is pretty messed up. That I think they just fooled you with the same canard. Look, you just draw 2 waves and it all works out just fine. No, it really doesn't. Okay, it is an interesting phenomenon. Well, not anymore. Now that I've debunked it, pulling this rabbit out of a hat is really kind of boring because the rabbit's just stuck inside that hat. He's in his little compartment smushed in there. And so it's not interesting anymore. It's just fucking stupid. Still, what is the purpose of the assignment to Catz? So he has no understanding. He doesn't even know, right? Well, let's get to it because it is funny. Okay. They arranged a debate for the end of July about different physics topics. Well, it really wasn't going to be different topics because he wanted it narrowed. And Baldy Catz bailed out. Okay, so it's a link to one of the videos, I guess. And so now David says to somebody else. So he doesn't answer physics novice. He's answering some troll, I guess, who deleted their comment. Oh, sure, I totally agree. But for every day non-scientific person, it is much better than asking the question to Michio Kaku and have him give a thoughtful look and say two. So I wonder what the fuck that was about. So the whole point is that Michio Kaku doesn't know what the double slit experiment is either. He's ignorant, and that's the truth. Physics is quite ignorant. They just blew right past it and never paid any attention to the fact that it doesn't actually work. Their theory doesn't actually fit the evidence. Not a great answer from Drake, but at least analytical. So again, analyzing, I don't even know how to make it's analyzing making boys out of puppets. It's there's nothing to analyze. They are unanswerable questions in any other form than it's going to be rare as fuck. It doesn't happen often. That's the best we can say. How often? Once every trillion years, billion years, gazillion years? We can't say how many times you have to roll the dice before they all pile up, on top of each other. It might be a lot. Yeah, a lot. And that's the truth. No second version of a neuron. So some fish, or whatever, hundreds of millions of years ago, some organism, can't even say it was a fish yet, right? It was just a trilobite or something, acquired an electric cell. And no other one did. No other trilobite created any other kind of cell that does the same thing, that you can make a brain out of it. Anyway, check with world experts and get better values. So more just horseshit. World experts. The whole point is the world experts are on trial on this channel. And they're being found not to be so expert. Okay. I still prefer the statistics of an infinite universe. What does that even mean? Oh, you prefer it. Is there some reason to believe it? No. You don't have any evidence indicating there's any logical obligation to say, oh, it's more probable it's infinite than it is finite. There's just no available data to analyze. So he likes statistics for which there are none. There's no statistics. And he'll just make them up. I like it better. Anything is better than his saying there must be none. Well, I didn't say that, so that's just a lie, idiot. I just said, who knows? I'm just saying, if you think this hugely complex organism that we are, is some kind of thing that just happens. You throw a glass of water on Mars and all of a sudden it just pops out. You're way too stupid. Alright, so let's see what this course shit is. I mean, I hate to delete this just because it's got threads, but it's too stupid. I happened across Conspiracy Catz yesterday and found... Oh, okay, this is alright. What Freud, he is one of his pockets of conspiracy dudes where they go around debunking each other. It's complete circle jerk. Well, the whole community of thing is just, yeah, it's just creepy. Yeah, I don't like it. Agree with you personally. Not sure what you have against grammar. Yeah, it was pretty hard to read. I'm curious as to what makes him a fraud. So dumbass still hasn't, figured out what the fact that Baldy Catz. First off, again, all he's doing is making fun of people that have to be considered mentally unbalanced. I mean, you have to be kind of a paranoid schizophrenic kind of personality if you actually think millions of people are conspiring to fool you about how flat the earth is. I mean, millions of people are lying to you. Millions of scientists are lying to you to make you think the world is round with fake satellite images and fake moon landings and fake everything. I mean, that's a psychotically dangerous, almost paranoid delusion. I mean, that's so far out of the realm of a possible scenario that we should be a little disturbed that these people are wandering about free. That makes them a fraud. And, making fun of fat women for no good reason makes them a fraud. I'll just find some video of fat women being angry and, just play the clips and people laugh and they'll like me. Yeah, that's lame as fuck. Okay. Your buddy here made the exact same type of video, right? No, they're not exactly like at all. There's no. Am I showing clips of the dumbest people on Earth and mocking them, or am I showing the smartest people on Earth and mocking them? Yeah. So I'm taking on a much higher caliber imbecile. Okay, he's not in a debunking circle jerk like many. He is trying to, so it isn't, he isn't doing this networking thing. He's not part of the shills. He's not creating multiple channels. He's not creating memberships. He's not selling t-shirts. Okay, sure he isn't. Like many, he is trying to combat the spread of conspiracy idiocy. Well, like I said, if you think you can spread schizophrenia, okay, it's really not that big of a threat. Okay, I mean, how many average grammar school students do you think will fall for everybody on the earth is lying to you conspiracy? How many? It's not a huge threat, fuckhead. They're not going to grow and take over the world. Can't really happen. Psychotic delusion is, it's sort of a genetic thing, delusionary personality disorder, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Okay, or else compulsive liar, right? I mean, the only thing they can be is insanely psychotic or insanely sociopathic in the fact that they don't mind lying to everybody. All right. Because won't answer for certain claims he's made, and DS is happy to debate him, but BC is cowering away knowing the full outcome of the fraudulent channel that others... Well, the point is he came on my video and said I was ill-informed. And I asked him to demonstrate that. And that's provoked my hostility in terms of, oh, this guy really does need to have his ass kicked. I mean, if he would have said, I'm just too busy and too important, I could live with it. But the fact that he thought I was somebody he could demean, okay, fuck you. You haven't proven that. You haven't proven you're smarter than I am. You haven't proven you can talk this shit. Just like you, dumbass. You haven't shown that you have some right to call me a dude. Dumbass dude. Alright. BC has... So this is the funny one, right? BC has a new channel just for debates. Yeah, exactly. I was a scheduled debate, you retard. On that channel, retard. So he doesn't even pay attention to Baldy Catz's debate channel because he didn't even see the video that says right on it why there's no debate. I mean, he's so clueless. So here he is in love with Baldy Catz, and he doesn't even watch his videos. Hilarious. They have said to send them ideas for debate. So he really didn't even know that context. That Baldy Catz bailed out because I won't say exactly what he says is true about the Holocaust. You have to believe exactly what he believes. That X number millions of Jews died in gas chambers. If you can't say exactly that, you can't say X millions of Jews were horribly and brutally murdered by the Nazis. Nope, not good enough. That's what it's about, shithead. Alright, clueless dumbass. Alright, so, and then somebody else chimes in, so we get no resolution. Nobody points out to him, hey, you're really dumb, David, because guess what? He was already scheduled on Agree to Disagree. Right? And Agree to Disagree on their channel, it actually says that, when Baldy Catz is promoting the debates, he actually says, we'll take on any subject and no taboos. Clearly, they're never going to be discussing historical lies. They'll never get to that subject. All right. There are search terms you can use to search Google. See, it's just another asshole saying, oh, yeah, it's all right. Nothing's broken. And then he concedes that, oh, yeah, you can't find any of those features, though. Yeah. maybe their tech can handle it, or alternately they're just evil. So again, it's just, yeah, duh. Oh, man, you don't really think that they took away the features we had for evil reasons. You think it's just they just accidentally took the go to the person's channel option away. It just it was too difficult to manage somehow. Yeah, I mean, come on. No, they took it away because it's to their advantage. Unfortunately, there's high-pitched ringing, so this is just, these people that complain about such bullshit that makes this video difficult to listen to. I frankly don't even hear it, but whatever. At a volume, Gary isn't to quit. What? At a volume, Gary isn't too quiet. Oh, whatever. So, yes, you have to turn up the video, so what? And the bugs are going to sound just as loud no matter how loud I am. I mean, yes, I could be closer to the microphone and the bugs would be further from the microphone, so yeah, that might help. But so what? I mean, it's just a silly whine in my opinion. The video plays well enough. Hope he can attain a better setup at some point. Just whining. Because these topics are highly engaging. Thanks for the knowledge, Gary. Yeah, well, whatever. I'm not too interested in critiques that just seem you're way too pee in the mattress kind of thing, in my opinion. I mean, I've played the videos on my tablet. I've played the videos on the computer. They play okay. It's not a big deal. I think you're just way too sensitive or whatever. Way too particular. Alright, it's crickets and then whatever. Blah, blah, blah. What about Google being a cloud storage provider? So there we go again. Oh, it's all okay because Google provides the same service 900 other websites provide. It's so lame. I mean, you can buy space on the internet dirt cheap. It's just nothing. All right, so Google allowing you to show you some ads. Like I said, lots of companies will give you cloud space and show you some ads and blah blah blah, and that's what you're paying for. So what? Thoughts on that? Really uninteresting. That's my opinion. Google didn't invent the idea of the cloud, and Google certainly wasn't the first provider of free space on the internet. So it's just such horse shit. Free, Avo space. Alright, so I think, and then Superior Minds, somebody did spam his channel, they, identity thieved his channel. And, that's always, you wonder why YouTube should have an immediate flag that goes up as soon as somebody's icon matches. I mean, they know what all of the content of the video is. I'm sure they know the pixels of icons. So they should know when an icon is a duplicate. Certainly the screen name, they should know when there's a duplicate. So I just don't understand why they let people do this identity theft thing. That's just too stupid. I mean, another reason to hate Google. Another of the many reasons. So I'm way behind here, but I really want to do some of this Feynman crap. Alright, so, just to illustrate, because see, I never realized, I watched these videos many times in the past, and I didn't realize what he's clearly saying, because I guess I just thought nobody could be this stupid. He can't be saying that. But he is actually saying it. So he was talking about the Mayans and counting numbers and blah, 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 and so they understand a relationship between an event. So they know Venus is a morning star at a certain time, and they know it's going to be an evening star at a certain time, but they don't know why. They just know they can calculate when, but they don't know why it moves. Why is it in a different location? What's going on? So they have no why answer. They just have a mechanism for calculating where it will be. And he was using that example to point out somehow that that's the only thing you need to know anyway. That's the only thing of value. And understanding why Venus is in these two different places doesn't mean anything. And the only thing that's important is knowing, how to calculate, how to predict where it will be next week. And I didn't really realize that's what he's really saying here. That and I think science really isn't for that purpose. Science isn't to make commercials. Science isn't to make money. Science isn't to do any of this to our advantage crap. Science is to understand why it's happening. Why is Venus moving? Why does it in a different place? That's the pursuit of science. Science is understanding, not calculating where Jupiter is, but actually understanding that there's an elliptical orbit and that there's a gravitational force. The why questions are science. Doing math is not science.
And they would have different theories. And then someone would come along and say, you know, it doesn't make any difference which one of these theories is right. We still have this fact to go along with. And that is our modern scientific point of view.
Right, so he's just saying that's our modern scientific point of view. We don't care about why. We just care about making predictions. And again, their predictions aren't really meaningful because to predict something, they have to already know everything about it. So it's, again, they could do their physics and apply it, their randomness physics, and apply it to the rolling of dice. Now, even though we know, as smart people, that this has nothing to do with quantum bullshit, that this rolling of dice means something has to hit, it has to bounce, it's creating a whole bunch of variables, and the variables are what's making the outcome probabilistic. And that's it. And we know it's a physical process. But they could turn it into their woo easy enough. They could easy enough say, let's forget about understanding any of the physical process and we'll just observe the probabilities and then we'll predict what will happen in the future. That a certain number of boxcars will show up. Well, they already know that from observing it. They already knew that Venus is going to be in different locations by observing it. So they already observed the fact. What's so fun about calculating when the next time it'll be a morning star is? Okay, maybe it's got some value, but I just mean that's not anything new. You already observed it. You already know it's going to happen.
In the earliest days of science, we got confused, arguing philosophically what was a reasonable reason for nature abhorred a vacuum, or it seemed to be nice that gods were doing it. There are different kinds of psychological reasons for thinking it probably is all right after you discovered what it was.
Right. So, but this is so he's saying this as if all the opinions were equal. No, one's like evolution stick right out and say, gee, damn, that one solves the problem. That one explains why we're here and what we're doing and why we're built the way we are built. I mean, it answers all the why questions. It gives you a model that's perfectly illustrative. You can just see the history. You can put it all together and make a real rational picture of what took place. That's showing you the reality. And just like the solar system, we created a real model. We're not just sitting here saying Jupiter moves, in the sky. We know that it moves as a planet around the sun. We answered the why question. We didn't run away from it. We didn't pretend it wasn't interesting.
These things were never useful for predicting what should happen next, and we soon learned not to make these arguments.
Right, so that's what he's saying modern science is, well, we don't bother speculating about possible models that explain function. Forget about wave-particle duality. See, he clearly knows it's not a wave, so he's arguing against that. But he doesn't care that it's a particle either. He just doesn't care about understanding it mechanically. He just wants to understand it in this superficial way that there's always going to be causes and effects, and I'll just pretend, okay, they're innately probabilistic. That they aren't probabilistic for a reason. That there isn't a mechanical cause. And I never really realized how he's, to me that is just so wrong-headed. No mechanics? Come on.
It's useless. It doesn't add anything. And so we're not going to make my imaginary Mayan arguments about the various gods that make the numbers. And so I'm left, if I'm a modern scientist, with a description of the situation. All right? Now I prepared the audience. Used up all my time to prepare the audience. Doesn't make any difference. I will continue anyway, in spite of the fact I used up all the time, to describe the theory. And in describing it, I will first describe some part of it. The theory is the properties of light, electrons, and the interaction of light and electrons. It's all one theory. I cut it into 3 parts that way. And the first thing I'm going to start with is the properties of light. Okay? I'm going to tell you some of the properties of light, and I hope, if I can do it, to get...
So he's going to get to the, there's always some sort of fluffy parts in between the important parts, but, he's going to make the argument that it behaves probabilistically without causes. there's no cause for its probabilistic behavior. It just happens to mysteriously disappear into some void of understanding, and it pops out in some new way. It does something for no good reason.
To the key point, and then we'll continue in the following lectures to elaborate on it. First, I don't go through the history of the theory of light. It had various things. The first and most important thing I would say is that Newton found out that what we see as white light is a mixture of otherwise pure stuff that's easy to understand. If you understand how each of the parts works, you just put the mixture back together again. And then you separate the light into prism, which is done automatically in Auckland, very often, as far as I can tell, in rainbows. And the various colored, if you would separate light in a prism and take out the part that looked, say, yellow, then you couldn't separate that any further in another prism. It just stayed yellow. That's called monochromatic light.
So it doesn't really mean anything, too. See, this is another complex kind of subject when you really start to pick at it, because the idea of it being red, yellow, and blue is something maybe our brain just does that. Okay, the change in the frequency is the physics. The physics isn't really making red, yellow, and blue. It's just making a range of frequencies that fit into categories of being a certain intensity. You know, they're more intense, and they're just saying it doesn't matter whether it's 505 nanometers or 555 nanometers. It's in a class, okay, that has a certain amount of energy. And there's another class that has a certain amount of energy, and another class that has a certain amount of energy. And so the idea of primary colors might just be something our brain does. It doesn't really exist in physics. The frequencies exist in physics. The categories don't.
One color. So I'm going to discuss all my phenomena for a while with light of one color because it's simpler.
Right, so it's never truly at one color, but it's close enough, which all that matters.
The first thing, Newton believed that light was a corpuscular thing and turned out to have very strange properties from that point of view. And it was then explained that many of these strange properties was because, in fact, it was a wave, which was wrong.
Okay, so let's just clear. So, consistent with his video from the 60s, here in the 70s, or the 50s, I guess it was 60s, so this is like 10 or 15 years later, he's, saying it overtly. It's not a wave. So it's kind of ironic that one of the founding fathers of quantum mechanics is clearly saying it's not a wave, and yet all the other physicists say it's a wave.
It turned out he was right, it was a particle. It is corpuscular. The reason that he said it was corpuscular was based on an incorrect guess as to the behavior of waves, and his argument was wrong, logically. But it turned out in the end that it was particles. Now,
So Newton said, it's just shadow, has a clear edge, therefore it can't be a wave. But if you have waves at a high enough frequency, they would also make a sharp edge. So that's why it doesn't rule out waves. But it clearly indicates particles are in the ball field. So that's, but yes, it doesn't rule out waves.
Talk about how I know it's particles is this. If we make an instrument to detect light that's as sensitive as it can possibly be made, we make it more and more sensitive. In fact, this thing is called a photomultiplier. And that's not the only instrument. I just take one for an example. It doesn't make any difference how we do it. When we get to light that's sufficiently weak, an instrument to detect it hears clicks, pulses. It was rain falling on something. You can bang, 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 bang. When the light is bright, the rain goes bang, 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 bang. A lot of them. When the light is very dim, boom, 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 boom. Small. These particular boom, booms and bang.
So I don't know if I want to see you gotta, the crap is in with the other crap, so it's all mixed in with crap. So I don't know if you really want. I've already explained, photomultiplier. The problem with that is that it's a clump detector. So it's kind of stupid to say it must come in clumps because my clump detector says it only sees clumps. Well, of course, it's a clump detector. It can't detect anything less than a clump. So that's the problem with that, right? It's think of the snowball on top of a mountain, and it's, you can teeter it, you can move it, but you have to still hit it with a certain amount of energy to knock it one way or the other. It has to be a marble size, and if it's a half a marble, it's not enough energy, it doesn't move it. Well, that detector sees everything as clumps because it only says when you've hit it with enough energy. So it's a clump detector. There might be something underneath the clump that's not a clump, but you won't know that because you have a clump detector.
And so forth are completely out of proportion. The actual rate is enormous, okay, and a little bit less when there's less light. It's very difficult to get it to a boom, boom, boom. You could so dark in here you wouldn't know what. But this device, to show you an example of how it works, just so you understand.
So I'll point out again, just because, well, I'll go ahead and let him do it, the drawing of it, and then I'll just see. I mean, these little pieces connect, and then you put something together, right? I didn't know what the catch was with the Veritasium video, right, on the double slit where he does the photon at a time, and I didn't know. I'm saying, well, obviously it's shitty results. It's not a very good pattern. It's a lot of things are wrong with it. But I just didn't understand, why is there so much noise? And there was so much noise because he had to turn it all the way sensitive. He turned it up so sensitive so it was catching photons that weren't in the experiment. So obviously he had the thing cranked all the way up. And why would he have it cranked all the way up? Why wouldn't he crank it all the way down? The experiment's producing very reliable photons. Why would you crank the sensitivity way up? And the answer is because the experiment doesn't work unless you do. And when you crank it all the way up, you actually make photons, okay, where they wouldn't have been. And in the sense that the energy you're shooting is not actually single photons at a time like you thought, because you're actually still detecting them. You're detecting, but you turn the sensitivity up.
What happens when we detect the weakest possible light is it works like this. There's a metal plate here, maybe cesium or something. When light shines on it, it knocks an electron out. Then you have another plate here with a voltage that attracts the electron, so the electron flows falls. It's attracted and speeds up and hits this plate. When it hits this plate, got about 100 volts of energy, it splatters. Other electrons get knocked out of it, 2 or 3, 5 perhaps on the average. Now those are attracted to another plate. And they all go sailing down here with another 100 volts. 5 of them this time, and each one of those knocks out on the average 5 or 6 other electrons. Now I got 25, and that's attracted to another plate, and that hits those, and so on, and you have maybe 10 or a dozen plates. By the time you get out the other end, you got such a chunk of charge and electrons, so many of them, you multiply 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, it'll be a long time counting pins to discover how much that is. You get such a tremendous pulse that you can, the number of electrons high enough, you can go directly through circuits and so forth and turn on and off switches.
Right, but that's the whole thing. It's a clump detector, and so in a second way, which is you detect a photon when it makes 1,000,000 electrons, but if it only makes 500 electrons, you don't see it. So it's still 500. There's still something that hit the detector, but you don't know it because you only trigger on 1,000,000. So if it's less than 1,000,000 electrons, you don't trigger. But clearly, if there's 900,098 or something, that's still a lot of electrons. So there's still something that happened, but you didn't measure it. You didn't account for it. You didn't say it was real. So it is a clump detector.
And do all kinds of things, make voltages, pin, make noises, do all these, it's amplified. Now what happens when we have a device like this and we put it in the dark, and it goes click, 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 every once in a while, a light particle comes in, a photon. This is a particle in every sense. The experiments have all the right properties as follows. That if you have a very weak light, and you have one or two, at least one of them every once in a while, if you put 2 cells out, and there's just a few of them coming, then it goes on one or the other. They don't go off together. They go off.
See, that's a reason why it's not waves, is to understand it's not going everywhere. It's a straight line. The photon travels. So this wave theory just doesn't make any sense. What's confining it? What's making it this wide? Its polarization is this way. What's confining it this way? There's no mechanism. There's no description of what's keeping it in some sort of narrow place in space. It doesn't make any sense.
Together, you got too many coming, you can't resolve it. But if it's very weak, the particle is either here or there. And it comes in particle. I don't know how much I can emphasize this, especially to young students who have learned its waves. It is particles in every way whenever you can detect it. It's unfortunate for us that we can see the light. I mean, it's unfortunate for us. No, not quite. Now if we were 10 times more sensitive to light, then in the dark, we would see that what we're seeing is little flashes, little tiny bits, dots of light. The nerve would go off, just like the photon multiplier, in spots. But the human eye is not quite that sensitive, and takes 5 or 6 of these particles, photons, 5 or 6 photons, to make one nerve fiber go.
So the question really is I've sort of posed this. Now I'm not certain which one, whether it even matters. But I mean, there's two ways to look at it. If you argue, I think it can be argued, that all of a photon is doing when it creates a signal in atoms. So when it hits atoms, what it's actually doing is there's energy that hits an electron, and in a certain amount of time, that is before the electron can move back, it's hit again. And that's what causes the electric effect. So the electric effect is hitting an electron within a certain amount of time twice. So it's a tipping point argument. You hit something and tip it, and then you hit again while it's got gravity on your side, so to speak, while you've got the force is weaker. So you're hitting it away from a proton. The proton force is now weaker. You hit it again, you have escape velocity, so to speak. So electrons escaping is what's electricity. Electrons moving a significant amount of distance. Let's just say that's electricity. Moving an electron a significant enough distance to cause other electrons to move a significant difference, and that's the cascade that is electricity. Electricity is a cascade. So that theoretically a photon can just be this tiny bit of energy, you could argue, where you just have two things and say this frequency is the photon. Now, I would argue that you could also think of the photon as being numerous pairs of those events of that frequency. All right, and the idea is that the matter only reacts, certain crystals will only create electricity when they get hit with a number of these frequencies. So it doesn't matter whether the frequency is technically in a row or whether it's spread over a distance. Now, the counter argument to this, make it just two and just say numerous packets of two, would be the fact that the photon has polarization. And the polarization is commensurate to the wavelength, and that's really commensurate to the speed of light. And so the argument would be is that it has to be more than one piece to have polarization. So it would have to have more than one piece in it to be polarized, the same size as the wavelength. Anyway, it's still an open question. I mean, there's nothing. It's all particles. It just has to do with whether they're in units of two, or whether the unit size is variable.
So we cannot detect with the eye light quite low enough to notice the fact that it comes in the form of raindrops. All right.
So the argument would be is he's saying you need 9 photons, let's say, or 6, for a human eye to see it. The argument could be that you need 6 little packets of 2, or you need one that has 6 units in it. One straight line with 6 units, or 6 little 2s in the same space, in a similar space. The space of the domains that would be the crystal that you're seeing it with. You see light usually with crystals, metals, something that can turn the light into electricity.
They're particles, right? You can detect them with an instrument. You can count them, so and so many per second. Bright light, more per second. Dim light, less per second. Okay? Now we start to describe the properties of light a little further. The next property I want to talk about is reflection from a glass surface or a water surface. I believe everybody knows that you can see the sun or the moon, let's say, in the sea as it settles. Reflections are a happy thing in art pictures. There's moonlight reflected from the water. You have a window. When you look through a window, there must be a example. Like back there's one. You look. All
right, refraction. We probably should get into this reflection part as a separate video or something, but so I'll cut it here. In here is the if you don't like it, tough thing, and where you basically say God does play dice with the universe, that the surfaces, the material, the electrons are randomly reacting to the photon, that there is a random reaction, not that there's a real one where the electron is in a certain position. If it's here and it gets hit, it's going to be different than if the electron's here and it gets hit. No, that's not the reason. There isn't some knowable variable that decides the difference in the reaction of the electron. It's just some innate thing electrons do where they get hit and they just say random. I'm going to do something random. Probabilistically random. So it isn't random like any one of the choices. It prefers certain outcomes. Even that, going that far. But he's really just arguing. He's defending the God does play dice with the universe argument that Einstein had with Bohr. And I just think it's amazing that first he's denying your waves and he's overtly saying it's a magic verse. And nobody seems to recognize those as disturbing arguments to be made by a physicist. That he doesn't care about why. How Venus gets from here to here, that doesn't matter. That's not an important question. I mean, I think it is to a physicist. Should be. So anyway, enough of a video, and so till the next time and such. And so forth and whatnot. So, again, $100 offer to anyone who has any kind of substantial physics credibility, some sort of capacity to demonstrate that they're well educated on the subject and can competently defend conventional bullshit for 1 hour of your time. $100 for 1 hour. Seems pretty fair. It should be easy to defend conventional theory. I actually am going to eventually do a video on Hawking's, and just how mush relativity is as a theory. The whole black hole theory is so stupid. I mean, this whole idea, they actually think that even if you argue for a Big Bang, the idea that electrons would all be in the same place, and all the protons would all be in the same place, and they'd be in an infinitely small singularity. You'd take all the electrons and just have them all in the same exact space. I mean, it's such a retarded starting point. Why? How would they get all in the same space? How could they possibly get into the same space? I could see smashing them right next to each other. Electron, proton, creating a matrix where they can all get into a really small amount of density, by ordering them. You see, they use the word entropy all the time too, and this is so stupid. Order creates so much less space, and they'll say things like it's more heat. Black holes, the bigger they get, the colder they get. You're just like, what the fuck are you talking about? To create gravity, you're creating temperature, because the only way gravity can happen is you have to move an electron and you have to move a proton. If you don't move them, there's no gravity. If nothing inside of me moves and nothing inside the earth moves, then there is no gravity. That's why the whole cold thing works. When you make this shit cold, the whole reason why it works is, is a kind of disabling gravity, creating levitation and all that stuff, is because of that. The colder you make something, the less it's capable. The less movement, the less capacity to create anything called gravity. Anyway, whatever. They're so far from the right answer.